All right, hockey fans. So, what do we got tonight? Game 1, Four Nations, Canada versus Sweden. Now, on paper, these two teams are not exactly even-esque, right? Most people would kind of think that Canada's got the best overall roster. Certainly, skill-wise, top-heavy in the top 6. Sweden's got a very balanced team. They're so balanced, they've got Gustav Forsling on a second pair. Not sure I agree with that, but I'm biased. Now, Canada's so good, Sam Bennett is a scratch. That's how it's going to be. That's fine. We don't want him wearing himself out anyway. The assumption is he may play again against, or eventually play against the United States. Now, the big question that everybody has is, how are the players going to handle these games? We pretty much assume it's not going to be like the All-Star game. Tkachuk says it's going to be like Game 7. I'd say it's going to be somewhere in between. Now, I did do a segment on the members-only podcast last week that covered Tkachuk's comments and Barkov's comments about the intensity of these tournament games. And basically the question was asked of Barkov. He said, who, if anyone, is going to start hitting people, including maybe hitting people that are actually on their own NHL team. And Barkov did not hesitate to say it would be Chucky, that he felt like Tkachuk would not lay off any hits because Barkov has seen too much up close. I'm paraphrasing there. You get the point. It'll be interesting to see. Obviously, Tkachuk's not playing tonight, but overall, how these players handle the physicality and the fact that a lot of these players are on teams that are in playoff races. You don't want to get dinged. Are you going to be blocking shots? That's a big question. If they start blocking shots, then we know they're serious. Meanwhile, in goal, Binnington versus Gustafsson. The goalies are going to have an effect, but it might not be the way that most people think it is. And what I mean by that is, I've been talking about this a little bit. When a goalie goes to a new system, new team, usually takes them a little bit of time to adjust. So all of the goalies are dealing with new systems and new teams for the basically. So I don't know if you're going to see the same level of Vezina caliber play from guys like Hellebuck, Ottinger, etc. Not saying they're going to be bad, but maybe the games will be more like 4-3 instead of 3-2. We should know early on, Canada's going to mean business. Canada could probably win this game without being really over that physical. The most physical games will probably be involving Finland and, of course, U.S. versus Canada. Let's have a good game. Be really interesting to see also how the refs handle this, if they're going to let them play, call it tight. First time in a long time we've done anything like this around here. All right, let's get it going. All right, so 2-0 Canada after 1. Not a big surprise. Canada's roster is stacked. Less than a minute in, just the power play for Canada. I mean, McDavid, McCarr, Reinhart. It was McKinnon. It's just absurd. So less than a minute in, Reinhart takes his spot in the bumper, and I believe it was McDavid getting the puck over to McKinnon. And it was interesting to watch because when the pass happened, Reinhart was in that bumper spot, and all 4 of the Sweden's defensemen, all 4 of the box closed, or 3 of them closed right into Reinhart, and the pass just went right past everybody, and McKinnon buried the puck, and it was 1-0, and then Marchand added another one, and then at that point, I guess at one point it was 7-0 in shots for Canada. Sweden finally has 3 shots. Now, the first 2 shots were Gustav Forsling. None of the shots are really being meant to be anything other than to get a stoppage of play and a face-off. They're not serious shots. It was obvious they're just trying to get a stop for the most part. So now the level of intensity, Morrissey plastered somebody into the boards. They've been knocking McDavid around a little bit. Reinhart got on his knees to block a pass. Couple of guys have blocked some shots. People are hitting. Yeah, I would say that this has the feeling of maybe not quite a playoff game, but you know how like on opening day your team is like everybody's got the wheels and the juice, and everybody's hitting and they're playing hard, but it doesn't quite have the same edge as a playoff game. That's how I would describe it. But they're hitting. There's no doubt they're hitting. So that makes me know that come like United States versus Canada, there's going to be some whacking going around. I didn't mean for it to come out that way. I don't know what you want, man. All right, let's move on to the second period. All right, so 3-1 Canada after 2. Now, I misspoke on the power play goal in the first period. It wasn't McDavid that made the pass. It was Crosby. There's so many good guys in Canada, you lose track. It's just absurd. So now, this period, Sweden kind of dominated most of the period, but only got to 1 goal. Canada gets 1 back. Sweden gets 1 from Brodin, and then right here towards, I don't know, just a few minutes left in the period, it kind of looked like for a while Sweden was going to tie up the game. Then Canada comes down the ice, and Crosby is tied up with Forsling, but he manages to get the pass off to Stone, who just comes in behind the defense. Everybody's watching the puck. Nobody's watching from behind, and Stone just comes right in. I mean, Dahlin's just standing there in front of the net. I don't know who he's looking at, but he just watched Stone just walk right in, and boop, and now it's 3-1 Canada. Now, Shea Theodore got injured. Kempe is running all over the ice hitting people, and one of the people he hit was Theodore. Clean hits, but they're hitting, that's for sure. And Theodore kind of, his wrist went up against the wall, and it didn't look pretty, not like he got hurt bad, but he hasn't returned, so... But, you know, unfortunately, he plays for Vegas, so there's not a lot of sympathy. Not a lot of sympathy there. They'll just put him on LTIR, make room for Rantanen. But other than that, it's a good game. I'm hoping that we can get this a little bit closer, maybe make it a little bit fun towards the end. Really thought Sweden was going to tie that up, but Canada's got just, you know, they got that firepower where just, you know, you can dominate them all period long, and boom, just like that, puck's in the back of the net. All right, let's finish this up, head to the third. Maybe we'll get lucky and get some overtime.
We are going to overtime!
Wow! Canada gets it 4-3, about 7-8 minutes into the 10-minute 3-on-3 overtime. Holy hell. So Sweden comes back in the third period, gets a goal at like 18:06. They get another late one. I thought Sweden was going to win that game in regulation. They were really all over Canada. But then once it goes to overtime and you got that 3-on-3, that high-level talent Canada has, it was just a matter of time. Gustafsson, both goalies played well, but Gustafsson in overtime was insane. He stopped McKinnon a couple of times. He made some ridiculous saves. And then, of course, right there at the end, Marner gets some shoulder up. I mean, just, it's, you know, it's one of those shots where the goalie's only going to do so much with that shoulder. Perfectly placed shot. Canada gets it 4-3, so that gives them 2 points. And then Sweden gets 1, which is probably a lot better than most people expected. Certainly a 3-1. You kind of figured that was going to be a 3-point game for Canada. So Sweden's not out of this. Sweden played a really good defensively structured game. They were out there moving as a one-man unit, where Canada just sort of was depending on the high-end talent, right? Sidney Crosby had 3 assists. McDavid attempted multiple times to take the game over by himself, but he just couldn't quite put the puck in the back of the net. And Kempe from Sweden had a hell of a game. I thought he was the best player on the ice for them, but they had some other good guys out there. Sweden really had a much better effort than I think the final score indicates. They really dominated most of the second and third period, just couldn't get the puck in the net, and Canada avoids. I think the statistic was Canada had never lost in an international play after having a 2-goal lead. I believe that was the statistic that they put out there. So very, very, very good game. Now Shea Theodore did get his wrist x-rayed. He never returned. They didn't say anything about what the results of the x-rays were, but that doesn't sound good, because if it's a ligament or a tendon, you might not really be looking at an x-ray right early on, because the swelling is going to be pretty bad. But if they think he might have broke something, so that's not good news for Vegas fans if that happens. So I know most people don't have a lot of sympathy for Vegas fans. You don't want anybody getting hurt, right? Don't want anybody getting hurt. And so one guy getting what could be a major injury in the first game, that's the only downer. But the rest of it is, forget the All-Star game. Forget the All-Star game. I don't know how you ever go back to that format when everybody has seen this. Now, the flip side to that is these guys are playing, and they're playing hard. And I'm watching this out there, and I'm seeing Gustav Forsling out there practically the whole overtime. And I'm like, oh, God, no, get off the ice. Because, the dude is already logging a ton of minutes as it is. Half our team is playing for Finland. You know what I mean? And then, of course, you got Chucky for the United States. And he's going to be watching the physicality of this game, and his mouth is already watering or whatever the hell he's going to pull tomorrow. So I'm enjoying it, but I have a feeling there's going to be more than one fan base by the end of this tournament that doesn't care for this tournament, because there's no way Theodore is going to be the only injury, because these guys are hitting and they're playing hard. Guys are running and crashing into the net. They're blocking shots. It's kind of like playoff intensity. Certainly, the third period and certainly overtime was playoff intensity out there. That was really, really surprising. It's fun to see. I wish they could do this every year, but you can't have something like this every year in the middle of the season, because I do have a feeling that there's going to be some injuries and the teams might balk at doing it. Because it's so intense. It's a lot more intense, than we really thought. And so that's it. Canada gets first game 4-3. Good stuff. Fun game. We had like 700 people by the end on the stream. Appreciate everybody coming out. Thank you all for all the super chats. That's how I feed the kid. That's how I feed the kid. So I do genuinely appreciate every bit helps. So I'll be live tomorrow at noon for, it's obviously normally your Panthers therapy session, but I'm sure the talk will be of this game. And then tomorrow night, we'll be back live it is tomorrow night, right? Yeah, that's tomorrow, United States versus Finland, which is kind of just like basically the United States versus the Panthers, because like 4 or 5, I don't know, like half the team is from the, we could make our own line. Right? So, good game. Good stuff. Absolutely good stuff. All right. I'll see you tomorrow.